Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. You have Alyssa Corum here, and I'm joined by Ed Carson. We're going to get to the action in the major indexes, but Ed, give us a rundown of what's in focus today.
Okay, we're going to take a look at Spotify, which tried to rebound off its 50-day line, Zoom, which definitely did not, and we're also going to take a look at gold and silver, which were definitely tarnished by today's action.
Yes, that's right. But first, we need to check in on the major indexes, starting off with a look at the NASDAQ here, falling some 1.7% for the day, really getting hit, especially late into the session, dragged down by some Apple news. We also had the Dow down 0.4% and the S&P 500 down 0.8%. But tech broadly today, Ed, getting hit once again.
Yeah, once again, hit very hard. I mean, especially as they came into the close, there's that rotation. And, for much of the day, it was Dow leading, S&P getting close to a record high, and the NASDAQ lagging a little bit, trying to get positive. At times it was. And then it turned into a negative day where NASDAQ led down. There was some, Evercore came out with a report saying that China's smartphone sales were weak. That hit Apple, that hit the NASDAQ, it appeared, and that's why we came down. If we went over to SPY or the S&P 500, you can see we actually got within like 12 points of an all-time high, but came down and fell a little bit further than that. And so just not good action. You don't like to see a close like that, and we'll definitely have to keep a close eye. As you should probably be taking a more defensive stance just in general.
Right. But much like we saw with the NASDAQ, had 7 sessions up in a row
That's right.
before pulling back it a little bit. Now seeing that for the S&P, but still overall taking a step back. This is not too abnormal of action, but you're right. Might want to get a little bit more defensive here. And now let's take a look at Spotify, ticker SPOT. We saw a rebound today off of the 50-day or 10-week moving average, with that stock closing up 1.8% for the day. We're taking a look at it on a weekly chart now. Usually when we see these rebounds off of the 10-week line, we like to see it with a little bit more oomph. But what's your take with what we saw with Spotify today?
I mean, obviously, any tech type stock that rose today, isn't doing too badly. And on a 50 days on the daily chart, nice bounce off the 50-day line. But yeah, we're just barely above the 10-week line. You can see how it came well off its highs. Again, not a surprise. It was, on the positive side, it was sort of an orderly decline. I mean, we saw some stocks come plunging down toward their 50-day line. This was fairly orderly after a huge run. Obviously, there was a big retreat, but this, as you're pointing to, low volume, fairly small price declines, so this is what you want to see. But in hindsight, it always looks, the rebounds always look great in hindsight when they work, but you don't know if you're going to roll over again. And that definitely was the case with some other stocks today.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Case in point being Zoom, ZM today, whereas it got that support at the 50-day line yesterday, clearly undercutting that level today, down over 7.6%, closing at or near session lows for the day. And I mean, this was one of the hottest stocks in this rally, respecting that 50-day line the whole way up and up until recently, hovering around that 21-day line. But today, with this drop below the 50-day, investors at the very least, I mean, depending on your cost basis, should be trimming here.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Obviously, if you tried to buy the rebound or bought some of the various areas where it broke through a downtrend, there's various places where you might have bought it. You should be out of those kind of positions now. If you bought it way down deep, one of these earlier areas, you might still hold some of it and wait to see if this stock can get back above its 10-week line by the end of the week. But as you can see, that one is down pretty hard. It's going to take a pretty big rebound to get above that. 7%.
Yeah.
That's that. And if there is a coronavirus vaccine, I mean, while Zoom is likely to do well going forward, still, I mean, some of those coronavirus plays might lose some of their steam.
Yeah. And at the very least, this speaks to the rotation that we're seeing right now, because stocks like Zoom have had such big moves throughout this whole rally. So now, we'll have to see where it does finish the week. If you're a long-term shareholder, as you've been mentioning, Ed, we like to see where it closes in relation to the 10-week line on a weekly basis. Usually, if it's 2% or more below that level, that is a pretty clear sell signal to us. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But let's also pivot our attention to another group that was looking pretty hot and is now looking a little tarnished after a pretty big move. And that is the precious metal stocks, gold and silver. You can see here with GLD, the ETF, a huge run up, but a very, very steep decline here today, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, if you bought gold way further down, either this or some other stocks way down below, yeah, you've got a huge gain, and so you have to think about what your cost basis is. But it's not necessarily a safe haven. When these things turn,
Mhm.
they can turn pretty quickly. It's not like, oh, I can set it and forget it. It's gold. It's going to keep its value. Well, it sold off. This is linked to the price. The miners sold off. Silver was even worse. SLV, and that was a double-digit loss for that. Silver has been running up even more than gold in
Mhm.
recent days. So it's just something to keep in mind. Bond yields surged today, and if you think that the economy is going to come out of it, or a vaccine will come soon, then the safe haven flows will flow right back out again.
Yeah, and just taking a look at a couple more of the sharp losses today. You mentioned the gold miners. This GDX ETF tracks that. FNV Franco Nevada, a recent breakout that we were looking at, but a clear sell signal today with this one as well. PAAS, another one that we were keeping an eye on, coming down all the way to its 50-day line. So this is definitely a time to be vigilant in this rally, and a lot happening underneath the surface right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The index has had some wild day, but you're right. The sector rotation is far more extreme, and it's just something that you have to watch out for because the tides come in and out, and you don't want to be caught in that undertow.
Mm, very good point. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. And you can be sure that the conversation will continue over on IBD Live tomorrow morning, our daily morning live stream where our experts are sharing their screens, talking about stocks on the move, and not just buying strategies, but those selling strategies as well, which is definitely coming in a lot of handy lately.
Yeah, if you're going on with real fast moving stocks, you have to know when to pull the brakes.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.